Welcome everyone to another episode of the London class on TopstepTV. I do have a little platinum short running based on a similar idea that I was talking about yesterday. Let me just adjust this. If you're here for the first time, my name is Dee, aka Deeyana Angelo. I'm a Series 3 qualified professional futures trader. I've been trading futures for 13 years, but I've actually been trading for 18 years all in. I was a swing trader for 5 years and then moved into futures once I thought to myself, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to do this forever. All right, so let's have a look at what is going on in platinum from very, very large time frames. I do have this trade running on my live as well. But I'm using this combine as a solidarity combine whilst we are running the VIP sessions. And yeah, so this is what I was looking at. I have this generalized supply from a weekly chart. Now, obviously, that's pretty massive, so we can't be taking cues just from that. From the way I look at this, I look at the market from a horizontal point of view, and we are still kind of touching this range, going to the range high. So I want to see whether there's going to be a swing there. If I go down to the daily chart and apply a similar analysis, there is a zoomed in supply, more recent, on the daily chart, right? We popped into it overnight, and then as soon as London opened, it did that Frankie fake out where we went above the Tokyo high, Asia high, and then reversed. That is what pushed me into this trade. I couldn't really sleep very well for some reason last night. I had some trouble with my stomach, and yeah, decided to watch what happens since I woke up so early. So the reversal from the daily supply. And now we're going to see whether we can get some real follow through. I mean, we're in profit for about 32 ticks already. But that's the bird's eye view. That's like a massive time frame. 4-hour chart, when I have a look at the price action, obviously we have some bears stepping in. So obviously I'm not the only one looking at that. Now the only question is how much follow-through is this going to have? Is it going to happen today, or is it going to be more of the couple of days swing, which obviously we cannot do on Topstep because we have to be flat at every day, at the end of every day, but that's absolutely fine. So we're going to see how far this gets to. From the profile point of view, we're opening above value after yesterday's CPI madness. I did manage to get my mean reversion short just before the CPI, which was somewhere around this candle. And then it just kind of continued to bleed higher from VWAP. So I focused on some other things. And I think towards the end of the day, I was trading ES, if I remember correctly. So I managed to get a few ticks at the end of the day. Like literally last 10 minutes, they decided to make the move that should have happened during power hour, but for some reason I think we've got like algorithms that are preventing certain moves during the RTH, and then something happens and they switch off and then you can get the move. It's a very bizarre situation, but it is the world that we're living in the world of Trump tweets again, so we have to be aware of the headline risk at all times. From a 1-hour chart, there is a very decent 2-bar reversal. So it's a bearish engulfing. Very strong, right? Now, whenever you have such a massive candle, you can have a bit of a mess around before they decide where to take it. But yeah, we are looking at a potential for a mean reversion back down. I do have a pretty aggressive target here. It's playing on that idea that we're going to have a swing down. And if we are looking at a reversal at a supply, and this really picks up speed, in my experience, those days tend to be outlier days where it just keeps going and doesn't exactly respect any kind of average ranges. Now, the average range for the full 24 hours is actually somewhere around the value high. So it's somewhere around here. So I guess the first target would be 41 if we do manage to get there. I am willing to accept the risk on this and just to, see what happens. It's a stop loss that is a little bigger, but the position is a little smaller. So instead of 3 contracts, I'm using 2. And instead of about, 35, 40 ticks, I'm using a 55 tick stop to effectively account for the fact that I want this to last a bit longer. So what you're doing there is you're reducing the sensitivity of the position to any intraday moves while maximizing the chance of staying in as long as possible if you do indeed get the move you're looking for. Now you can see that we've already dipped below my entry because of that Frankie fake out development that we had at the beginning of London. And now we just have to wait. So we are below overnight VWAP. We have some calls still at 10.50. Yesterday, that's exactly where they stopped. So this was like pretty much the end of yesterday's trading for platinum. And as soon as they touched 10.50, they kind of started to bleed away from it. So these levels can be very good. Now, some of the other calls that I have, still have a gamma wall at 10.20. So that's like massive. But yesterday when I was looking at 10.50, I also thought that was, outside of the daily range, and yet there we were at the end of the day. So, anything is possible. ACH, anything can happen. So I'm just gonna watch it. So yeah. Let's have a look at the question. Tommy V says, D, is opening range for each instrument more important only for the day or for the day of, or also critical to look at yesterday's opening range? So when it comes to the opening range, we look at today's opening range, but I look at previous day's value area for further open sentiment. So opening range trade is not something that I take because I don't trade from such low time frames for the most part. Unless it's like very late in the day or something. But when we are opening, I actually focus on a larger time frame. So I will actually look at 15, 30 minutes and the full hour before I decide what to do with it. It is also the reason why I'm running these sessions a little bit later, because I want time. I want to give price time to actually get out of that first hour trading range and then to make my decision of what I'm going to do with it. If we have releases like CPI, PPI, pretty sure we have that today, you can have COMEX open, which is when technically platinum starts trading, even though it's listed on NYMEX. It's a bit of a weird combination. But you can have very large initial balances that basically set the range for most of the day. So then any sort of a move outside of it, it tends to need a lot of volume to actually make it happen. But yeah, when we are looking at the combinations and stats around those particular setups, it's usually today's opening range with yesterday's value. Okay. Now, that's something that's not very well explained, in my opinion, in Dalton's books, because, when I was working at a prop firm, I was taught about the profile. And I went, okay, well, my value high, I was looking at the developing value, right? And I go, well, my value high is at this price. And the guy next to me was like, what are you talking about? It's like all the way down. Like, and I just looked at it and went, but, and he went, what are you like? What? And I said, but the opening value, and he said, no, you're looking at the previous day. And I was like, oh, I see. So there was like a bit of an epiphany moment. And since then, things have been a lot clearer. Now, if we're very far away from previous value, what you want to see is a relatively early close of that gap. Now, the bigger the gap, the more time it's going to take to do that. But generally, if within the first 2 to 3 hours you don't get any attempt at a gap fill, that means either a very boring day, so not much is going to happen, or you're going to get the continuation move. Typically, after such large days like we've seen yesterday, it's unusual to see yet another big day in the same direction. Now, some of the commodities like crude oil, RBOB, even gold, I've seen them do like 500 tick days in one direction, then the next day starts and they do 500 ticks in the other direction, almost like a complete reversal. But equities, because they have that natural upside bias, they tend not to do that. So there's like the behavioral quirk that you need to be aware of when you're trading equities. So you can have a massive move in one direction and then sort of a bit of a hangover day, where you get a neutral day type or a non-committal auction, either side. Maybe they tried to go below initial balance, but then meander away from it, back into it. And same thing to the upside, right? So very rarely did I see, two outlier days back to back. So that's something to keep in mind if you're trading NQ, YM, ES. It's not that it can't happen. Obviously, like we say, anything can happen, but it's less probable. Let's put it that way. So hopefully that clarifies things about looking at profiles and how to look at it properly. Tommy says 1 hour opening range started in points. Do you think it really needs and uses a full hour, 1 hour to get a range? So opening range and initial balance are actually two different measures, right? They're not obviously the same, because the opening range looks at periods between 1 up to about 5 minutes, right? Some people like trading that. In commodities, you're going to get your face ripped off trading those because it's way too bouncy, volatile. There's no clear trend on most time. We're talking about, platinum. We're talking about crude oil. We're talking about RBOB. For the most part, the real direction only shows up after something called the Forex option expiry. Now, some of these are Forex linked. What does that mean? Well, it means they have a big correlation with one of the Forex, one of the currencies, right? Crude oil and RBOB in particular have a big connection to Canadian dollar because Canada is one of the biggest exporters of crude oil. Gold has a pretty large connection to Aussie dollar. Why? Because Australia is one of the biggest exporters of gold. So it's not, it's not some kind of a mythical thing. There's a mechanistic action to the markets and to events. This is why you need to stay aware of option expiries, when they happen, why they're happening, why you're seeing unwinding days, rather than just, sitting down, clicking buttons and not actually being like yesterday. I was in one of the other Discord groups, not in the VIP, but somebody wasn't aware of the CPI, and obviously everything went bonkers for a hot minute, for like 2 to 3 hours, and they were like, whoa, what happened? It's like, dude, you're a trader. It's like, what are you looking for? What are you looking at if you're not aware that CPI is happening today? So to me, that's just not doing due diligence on presumably your desired career. And yet, many of the people who get into this job, they want to make millions, but they don't know basics of like when actual high impact releases are happening. It's like, get real, man. Like, get serious or get out. So, it's just that, complete zoomed inness of like, oh yeah, let's just look at price action and nothing else. So releases don't exist. And then they get their face ripped off and they're like, what was that? It's like, do you not have Google and financial juice and all that? Are you not interested in releases? Like, are you such a noob that you started trading yesterday? You don't know that this happens? Like, what is the actual story behind those kind of behaviors? I don't know. I'm nosy. I'm nerdy. I want to know everything about everything. So when I got into trading, I, always asked my mentors a whole bunch of questions. It was like, what do I need to be aware of? And even if you're watching the markets for like longer than 4 months, you will notice some days something going crazy. So when that happens, wouldn't you go to Google and just go, news releases today or something, or go on any sort of a calendar, anything, econ a day, Like, wouldn't you be interested to know what the hell happened? Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Those are TT says, is anyone else having issues with their charts and don't freezing every few seconds? No. So as you can see, mine is absolutely fine. Well, let's have a look at NQ or something, because maybe that's different. No, it all looks pretty smooth. Don't know. I'm not having issues, and this is a combine, so it is a... And I didn't notice any issues in my live today either. Oh, Tommy V, I see that I read your thing. It started in the pits. Opening range started in the pits. So yeah, opening range even in the pits. I think in the pits it wasn't any sort of a time frame. It was just like a broker going around going, hey, what do you think your opening range would be? What do you think? And then they would kind of extrapolate from that. Now with the advent of electronic trading, we obviously can't do that because it's like... You're not going to go around, thousands of traders electronically going, hey, what do you think the opening range? That would take a while. So they needed to have a different way to do it. And then they kind of just take a time frame and that becomes a reference for the opening range. Oh, yeah, you said 1 hour initial balance. Yeah, the initial balance didn't start in the pits. The initial balance is a concept by Peter Steidermeyer looking at when... they establish a range, and then when the other time frame participants, like for example Goldman, was getting involved, right? And they would usually show up and hold. They would test for business outside of the initial balance, right? So what does that mean? Well, they want to see whether there's more follow through in like the plainest way possible. And if they didn't get that follow through, they would obviously have a failed auction. So it's like they tried to find business. Nobody wanted to take their orders. They, plowed in a bit of orders underneath or above the initial balance. Nobody wanted it. Then we migrated back, and then you would see this full rotation. So almost like a take profit move through to the other side. So I think it's still relevant. Is it as relevant as it was when you had Goldman trading right next to people? Probably not, but is it still a good indicator of whether we have committed movement and other time frame participants with big pockets that are able to sustain the price seriously outside of that first hour range? Yeah, is definitely a good orientation point. Is the be-all and end-all of trading? Can you have partial failed auctions? Yes, especially in equities where VWAP, Globex VWAP tends to be pretty reactive. So sometimes you see a pop outside of the initial balance, so it goes higher, then it comes back inside, and then it hits overnight VWAP and carries on higher. So that's something we see in DAX a lot. It's one of the setups that I love doing there. We see it in YM. To a degree, we see it in NQ as an exaggerated move. But yeah, you can also see it in other instruments, but maybe not as committed. Because sometimes VWAP in some other products might not be something that many people are watching. And it's always one of those self-fulfilling prophecies, right? The more people you have watching a level and using it, the more positions you will have around that area. But there are some truths in distribution curves where yesterday's business was located, and how far away we are from it. Are we inside it? That's kind of universal, just theory of distribution curves. It's nothing, it's no rocket science. It's just we had a distribution curve. The further out you are from the distribution curve, probability states that when you get to those 2-3% days on the outside of the distribution curve, that you're going to see some move back towards it. That's what what a lot of the profile is all about. And if we're right in the middle of it, well, what do you expect? You expect prices to try and get outside of it and then get pulled back in the middle. It's a simplistic concept, right? I know there's a lot of like meta language around it, and it makes it sound like it's very like it's very wordy. We have initial balance, we have value area, we have extensions, we have, other time frame participants, market makers. But in the end, we're all just looking at the same thing. Okay. Flimbo Quest says you always know what happens more supply than demand, or vice versa. Yeah, exactly. And if you're objective enough, you can probably see that happening in real time as well. When there's more supply than demand, what do you expect? You expect demands to be broken, right? And vice versa. So right now we do have a committed move. So if I was going to look at this 1 hour chart here, I don't really see any good quality demands up until down here, right? So if we do manage to actually start going lower, where would be the natural swing point? And again, probabilities state that it's going to come back to the area of demand. Now, whether they break it or not, that's a whole different thing. But we reached the daily supply, and in a 1 hour chart, we're having some trouble around it. Is it going to hold? Nobody knows, right? You see the same charts that I do. So I play the probabilities. Like I say, I will usually lose about just under 60%. Let's say 57% of my trades will be losses. But, every so often I go in on swings. And most of my intraday trades are pretty big anyways. I aim for 2 to 3 hour multiples. If it's a particularly rangy day, I will scalp. But unless it's absolutely necessary, I will look for my bigger trades. So I'm okay with losing. And on this combine, I suppose we can have a look at some general stats. I'm actually outperforming myself here because 55 trade win and 1.6 profit factor means that I've gone for like slightly shorter trades. So yeah, probably because I've been trading cattle, because a lot of this profit came from cattle. So yeah, I'm still learning cattle, so don't ask me don't ask me for how to trade it. I'm still looking at it because I've never traded cattle, and I decided it's time to learn, diversify into another market just in case everything else goes quiet. And I'm learning from Coach Hoop, right? He is somebody who I trust implicitly. And he knows his stuff because that was his background. So you always want to go to the source, right? You want to go to somebody whose specialty is that particular market. Tommy V says, Dee, do you think big money players, banks, actually use fibs or head and shoulders? No, they do not. In fact, a lot of them don't even look at charts. They have data. Okay, so they will look at options activity. They will look at spreadsheets. They're not going to sit here and go, yeah, there's a 3-bar reversal. However, their activities, because of the size of the positions that they're involved with, they have a big footprint on the chart, right? They leave a massive mark. And that's why you see them, right? You can see what Dalton says, are there adults in the building, right? Right now in Platinum, there are no adults in the building because we tried to go underneath the initial balance, so we're just pinging around. There's not that much volume. This is all pretty slow. Whether that picks up at some point into the overlap, we'll see. But, for now, this is your typical London session where we had one move and then meander. And to be honest, even DAX is not. I mean, it's moving more than this because we've had 150 ticks worth of movement. Still inside. Actually, they tried to pop outside of the initial balance, but that was only for 1 tick. So I'm going to wait for my DAX setups today. Maybe even until sort of midday before I decide what to do with it. We had a massive day yesterday. I went in, I called that in the VIP room actually. I went in on a long after the CPI. So this was a CPI print. I had the 22K and the London value, as well as the average session range low as my reversal potential. And then once we got there, this is a 30-minute chart. So I was watching the lower time frames in my little ribbon. And then we started to go higher. So I figured, well, I can use a 40 tick stop here. Even if they start dipping below it, I don't care. And then it just started picking up speed. So my first point was 5 minute 9 EMA. And then it went all the way up to VWAP. I did a second trade later on, so I did a bit of a rest. And then I came back and I saw that we're still going higher. So I did a second trade. And then the final trade that I did was the initial balance test. Got a little bit tricky here because I was like, oh God, is this a failed auction? And then they just pushed up. I didn't hold all of this till the end. I literally just held it up to the ADR high, which was my next reference point. So it was a pretty technical reversal for me on DAX. I find it so easy to read. Some of the New York markets, I've got to be honest, they've been really tricky to actually get in. Like, you know, you look at it, how it moves, and you're like, okay, so we should have some follow through, and then they do nothing, or they just wick around, and then whoosh, go in one go. It's like, how you you know, we're in a very interesting position now where some of these New York moves are quite temperamental, I would say. It's almost like, and that brings me to the next question, why don't you trade NQ at this time? Any reason? I hate the thing. Okay, first of all, I trade DAX because DAX is the product that uses the London session as its main session. And on most days, you can have, you know, very nice movement in DAX that is no drama, no nothing. Sometimes NQ, when you run into a quieter period, and trust me, most of you haven't been trading long enough to run into a quiet period. When I got put on an equities desk in 2013, NQ was not moving 1,500 ticks per day. I can tell you that now. It was actually pretty quiet. Like, we had the quantitative easing in progress, and ES was moving about 12 to 16 ticks a day. Ticks. Not points, ticks. So that's like 4 to 6 points, 4 to 6 handles for the entire day, you know? And I think NQ was maybe moving like 20, 30 handles. So the markets that you're seeing right now, like, enjoy them, guys, because guys and girls, because this is not normal, right? There will be a time when everything settles down, and I can see you in the chat whenever we have a quieter day that is like, you know, 500-600 ticks in NQ, everybody starts complaining, right? Oh, this is shit. Oh, this price action is doing my head in. Oh, blah, blah. Why? Because it's painful to trade, right? For a liquid product like NQ, you should have, you know, a lot of movement. And the first day when you don't get committed directional movements, everybody starts moaning. It's like, well, welcome to the start of my prop career, because that was equities markets from 2013 all the way up to COVID. So why would I bloody trade NQ? And then I traded NQ for about a couple of years when everything went nuts. But then I got sick, so I had a vaccine injury and big brain fog, pains everywhere, like complete, like, it's basically a, you know, big sort of disability, and we're not going to get into that right now. But yeah, I have health issues basically. So that meant that my whole nervous system cannot handle certain nonsense, and especially when you have a product that shoots through your levels like 20, 50 points at a time. So you would actually need to have a, you know, either not be bothered by it and size down massively, which is what I kind of do, but you know, on proper counts, I do trade a little more aggressively, because, you know, even if you get to a funded level and you do something risky, you can always get back to the combines, or you can have some. Yeah, I actually have a couple of XFAs waiting in the wings in case something happens with my live account, just to get back to the funded level very quickly. And it's something that you want to be doing regardless. You know, have a few of them ready, because you never know. Symbol for DAX is FDXM, but Topstep doesn't have it. Okay, I've been campaigning for Topstep to bring Eurex products Bund Not sure whether they can have FTSE because that's LSE. That's not really Eurex, I don't think. But yeah, if you have another brokerage, I think it's for non-professionals. Obviously I have a Series 3, so that immediately puts me onto the professional fees. So wherever I go, I have to declare that. And then for me, it's more expensive. But for you guys, if you don't have any qualifications or anything like that, and if you've never worked as a broker or, for a bank in any sort of capacity, then I think it's like $3 extra to get Eurex data. And then you can see it. AMP Futures has it. If you want full, look, there's micro, mini, and full DAX, right? So there's 3 different products. Micro DAX is €1 per tick, so it's pretty cheap. Then you have the mini. That's €5 per tick. It's kind of like platinum, right? Platinum is like $5 per tick, so almost like a micro. And then you have the full DAX, which is a monster at 25 euros per tick. So if you want to run one position size on the stops that I like to use in DAX, which is 35 to 40 ticks, you're looking at immediately $8.75 to $1,000 worth of loss per any single trade. It's like Nikkei, right? Very expensive. But because we have minis and micros, DAX can actually be quite scalable to any account size. That's why I really love it. It's probably the smoothest product that you will ever experience. There is no nonsense in it on most days. It's just, once it goes, the wicks are few and far between. Very directional, very clean. It's like a beautiful, beautiful product that is the middle of the range of volatility, trending moves, and smooth price action with nice follow through. Right? That's why I love it. I'm absolutely in love with DAX. I've been trading it for about 7 years, so not as long as some of the other products. And really heavily post-COVID, because crude oil got suspended for trading for a while. And then again, I was bumbling around seeing what I was going to trade. And yeah, we came to the conclusion that all of my coaching students also love DAX. So we put it on the map. And we've been trading it ever since. So it's gorgeous. And I'm trying to get Topstep to... They are working on it. Like it is a project that they started. And for some reason, they have some bottleneck that they can't get through in regards to the USD dashboard versus euros per tick. So yeah, it's been a year now. And we keep waiting. So I'm just going to keep waiting until they bring us DAX. Virus says, I gotta declare that I work at a bank, or do I have to be a certain field for the bank? If you are employed by a bank, like not in as a security guard, but in any kind of capacity of being involved with the traders, like for example, my husband worked in front office in one of the big banks, and whilst that was happening, he couldn't do any trading. There was no investments, nothing. Like it was actually against the law to, and he wasn't even, he wasn't a trader. He was a coder. He was a software architect, right? So, there was no trading. And in fact, if I was, if I was married to him back then, that would have been a little bit dodgy too. I wouldn't have been able to work in banking at all. So, be very careful if you are employed by a bank, whatever capacity you're working in, whether you're a coder, so whether you're in IT, or whether you're, actually in charge of people, whether you're a manager, you do have to declare that. And it's actually illegal for you to be involved in any sort of investing because they assume you have inside information, right? And you're not supposed to be doing that. So, yeah. Al Brooks, yeah. Anuj, I think Al Brooks is amazing. One of the best educational sources out there. definitely check him out. I have when I was starting out. Bit of a legend. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of Al Brooks' content. Phoenix AVS says, do we have a request form on TSX so we can support for DAX? No, there's no support form, but there is a TopstepX voting feature, which I've been pushing in everybody's faces for a year. Or less than a year, but, you know. So here it is. I just posted a TSX straight to funded post, but it is the same thing that you get when you click on this and then go into feature voting. So you click here and you go into feature voting. It is literally the same thing. I just found the actual posts of whatever Eurex post we decided to pick. And that's... you know, that's something, if you want that, please tell your friends, tell everyone, get your dog to vote for it, you know, get your parrot to press. We want Eurex, you know, we want Eurex, because wings, right? But yeah, so get everybody you know, all your trading buddies, everyone who wants Topstep to have the most popular product in Europe by far. So FTSE, DAX, you know, Bund, they are very, very popular products. And, you know, as Topstep grows and as the European side of things gets larger and larger, it wouldn't make any sense for them not to cater for the Europeans and Australasia, right? Because let's face it, if you live in Australia or in Asia, it's very difficult for you to actually get up in the middle of the night and pop in a trade in NQ, right? Now, some people do trade NQ out of hours, and, you know, that can work. However, some days, like we go through months of NQ having an 18-point range. Especially if you hit summer, it's very painful, right? The summer that we had last year was not normal because we had the election year, so that's kind of cyclical. So it will come every 4 years, where yes, everything is lively and whatever. But at the same time, on the other side, we had crude oil going completely dead, right? So that was unusual too. And it's still dead from what I can see, and I'm not touching that with a barge pole, only as a reference, but no thanks. But yeah, so it wouldn't make any sense. So, you know, as we start to expand more content and we will be expanding content for more the European side of things. You know, I think one of the other traders is also going to be running more of the actual London Open. But, you know, maybe he's going to be joining me. I'm not sure how we're going to, you know, do that. Maybe it's just going to be one big session where maybe somebody does one broadcast and then we kind of go into it immediately. So we're going to aim to have like a lot more content going forward for the Europeans, Australia and Asia markets. And with that, we have to cater for the products that come with those sessions. You know, watching paint dry on like most products at London, whilst I'm trying to squeeze out a trade that I never would normally do at this time of the day, because I trade DAX for this time of day, that gets painful. You know, it gets very painful, and there's a lot of, you know, ups and downs. And I mean, you can see this trade. I've been in it for like 2 hours. Has it done much? Not today. Has it done something yesterday? Yeah, we had the CPI, so we had like a bit of the unwinding of positions, so it was a bit more lively. But today it's sort of just like, you know. Someone is saying, quick scalp on BTC. I looked at BTC for London. I'm not impressed with it. I've got to say, it's kind of like, again, watching paint dry. For scalping, again, you've got to have something that moves, not something that doesn't move, right? But I mean, let's open up a chart and have a little gander at it. But, you know, I kind of watched it for about a week, and to be honest, Asia moves more than London, you know. And I mostly sleep, so I have to get my sleep sometime. We usually have very long days. You know, I'm running the VIP sessions. You know, I'm sometimes on the main broadcast, usually Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. You know, we have the London session. I like to pop in and see what's happening at the buzzer. Sometimes if I really can't sleep, I would pop in into Dakota's session to see what he's talking about. You know, we've got to sleep sometime. So from about 2 a.m. up to about 8 a.m., I've got to get, gotta get some sleep. I can't always be. But yeah, look at this. I mean, really? So Asia moved it well. So if you were awake during Asia, that's a good session, right? London, again, since Tokyo closed, so here's Tokyo closed, 7 a.m. my time. Nothing. Little move up, nothing. So effectively staying in a pretty tight range, not making a trending move back up to VWAP, not continuing the move down. So to me, this is now a range. It's very quiet. Like, where's the momentum? For scalps, you need to have momentum. So no. But Asia, you know, if you awake through Asia, look at that. That moves. A lot of stuff livens up during the New York hours. Again, that's also a session to be trading. And then London. Here's London. What does that look like to you? It looks like an out-of-hours session, right? It looks like nobody is bloody interested in it. This is your London. 5 hours of London. Do you want to scalp that? And if yes, I'm going to ask you why. You know? You want to scalp this. When it goes down, it goes up. Obviously, this was a CPI release, but, you know, a little bit less. But yeah, if you want to scalp... Okay, here's a day where London did do something. But again, it's pre-CPI. Usually what tends to happen around about the Beijing releases, the day before, I always say there might be unwinding of positions. We see this like big moves. And then you have the release. The next day, everything goes a little bit crazy. And sometimes you could have corrective moves overnight because of that. Sometimes I like to do Nikkei trades post-FOMC whenever we have the rate decision. But yeah, I've been looking at Bitcoin so far. For this time of day, it's a bit suspicious to me. So I'm not going to be doing scalps on Bitcoin. No, thank you. So yeah, Bruno, I think I answered that Phoenix's question. Because I posted the Eurex thing. He said DAS instead of DAX. Tommy V says, D, trading takes 6 or more years to get consistent. Do you think Elon Musk could master it faster, and why? Yes, first of all, he's an engineer. So generally engineers have a more organized mindset and already have transferable skills such as memory, speed of thinking, inventive, creative, out-of-the-box thinking. If anyone is the master of creative thinking and out-of-the-box thinking, I think it's Elon Musk. Is he an alien? Let's put a tinfoil hat on, shall we, for the morning on a Thursday. He is a very unusual guy. Like I'm sure everybody's watched his interviews, right? And he doesn't have a normal way of thinking. And you know how all of us have people in our lives who mean the best for us, but they tend to try and talk us out of goals that might seem impossible. We all have those people. I run across folk that complain about their spouses not being supportive, about people around them saying that, they have a pipe dream, that, this is all impossible, and that just because they're worried that you're going to go down a path of ruin or something. And then out of best intentions, they try to pull you into a very normal living. 9-to-5 job, security, family, kids, provide for your family with a job that has a ceiling. You can never make more. But some of us jump outside of the norm. So Elon is definitely on the extreme end of that range. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I have done seemingly impossible things where, like, to give you an example, when I was 4 years old, I declared that I was going to be a musician. not a singer, a musician, right? So everybody was like, ha ha ha, yeah, child, of course you are. Lo and behold, very soon after that, I begged to enroll in like piano lessons. As it turns out, me and piano don't really agree very well, but I ended up gravitating towards flute and then saxophone, then guitar, and I ended up having a pretty nice session musician career and a recording artist career for like 20 years. I started playing professionally from the age of 14. My dad had to go with me to clubs because I was underage. But yeah, we were in a band, everything. And then that sort of took off. And whilst that was happening, my mom was very worried, right? Now, to give you a bit of a background, my dad was a rock star. And every time I'm in Serbia, Eddie always pulls me up on my dad's platinum records. So he was in a pop folk band that sold like over 20 million records in that region, in ex-Yugoslavia. So I was kind of born into all of that craziness. And even coming from that point of view and side of things, my mom was still worried that if I went into the music business, it's going to be, littered with insecurity and you don't have a secure job. And, it's like very tough and not many people succeed in it. And I was like, yeah, thanks. I'm doing this. So I got known as somebody who just does things with my head through the wall, somebody tells me I can't do something, I will try and go do it. Now, as I got older, I got less egotistical, I think. So I no longer care much. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. But I don't know. I just don't seem to have everything I wanted to do in life. I pretty much did it. I wanted to... when I was 9, I was doing gymnastics. It's a very normal thing in Eastern European countries. And I got into my head that I was going to be in an Olympic team, that I'm going to go to Olympics. I did get into the Olympic team, believe it or not, but then we had the civil wars. So unfortunately, the country fell apart, the funding fell apart. And by the time that I was supposed to be in the Olympics, well, it would have been 1996 when I would have been old enough. The country didn't exist anymore. But I got to the Olympic team, So every time somebody told me, oh, you can't do this, I would be like, oh yeah? Well, you can't do that. I can. and even if I can't, I'm going to give it my all to try and be outside of the whole thing. And when I went into trading, because I was a musician back then, and let's face it, math at the time wasn't one of my biggest interests, right? I was like, yeah, whatever, mate. But as I stepped more and more into the trading world, I actually realized that arithmetics actually is my strong point. Geometry, just don't even ask me to do that. I'm just going to be like, creating and drawing an equal-sided triangle is forever a mystery to me, and it will remain as such. But yeah, pure numbers, I quite like them. And the more I got into it, the more I realized I have pattern matching abilities as a musician. So what is it that sets apart people who are unusual and people who can learn this job a little bit quicker than others? It will be those transferable skills and the willingness to not fit in with the norm. So almost to always go against the grain rather than searching for that security in the normality, in like when I say normality, I mean people who are perfectly happy getting up every day, going to a job from 9 to 5 or whatever hours you might be working, and not really having any real ability to make unlimited sources of income just by putting in certain new skills in place. Now, obviously, Elon Musk is like, if you ever listen to how he was getting people for, I think it was SpaceX. He literally had like a script, because I think he's a bit neurodivergent, isn't he? And he had a script that he was calling different people, trying to get them to invest, and he was just reading out the same script, or whether he was reading it out or not, or just, he kind of learned it by heart, I don't know. But I do know that when you listen to people who did end up investing in it, they're like, yeah, I got a call from some guy called Elon Musk. Ian. And then he just rattled off all of this stuff that he wants to do, and like, you go to Mars and they get rockets that are reusable and blah blah. Like, he had the script, and he was making like a ton of calls a day. He was like a typical sort of phone basher, old style, right? He was trying to get all these VCs on board. You don't become like that through experience. I think in some capacity you have to be born that way, to just go against everything that you know as the norm, to try and, chase your dreams, chase your vision. We have Michael Patak, who is a little bit like that, right? We have Michael, who is quite the character, right? You can't say that, oh yeah, he's CEO. No. He is a character. He goes against the grain. He's a huge contrarian. Somebody tells him, don't do that, he will go and do it. And granted, maybe not the easiest person to deal with, but he gets stuff done. He gets stuff done. And those kinds of people, they tend to progress a little bit faster in trading because they have this out-of-the-box thinking. They don't care what anybody else thinks. When I got into trading, my own mom, and she probably watches some of these, so, hi, Mom. She actually laughed in my face. So I was a musician, never interested in math, never anything to do with finance, even though she begged me to go to do a financial degree instead of a music degree. Because she was an accountant, bookkeeper and accountant, ran my dad's future companies that he had after he retired from music, to great success, right? So then the daughter says, oh, I want to be a musician. And she's just rolling her eyes at me. But then when I decided to go into trading, I was already like 27. So like kind of late to be changing careers and stuff. But I became more and more dissatisfied with the state of the music industry, especially. Like, I started trading in 2007, but it wasn't really until 2010 that I was like making pretty decent money out of trading and thinking, why the hell am I jumping around the world in like dry air planes, and my ears are always buzzing from the buses and tour buses, and you're never home, you're always tired, you're not eating right, your health is going down the pan. Like, what am I doing with my life? And then I actually got swine flu on one of those gigs, and that was difficult. Like, it was one of those flus where you're okay for a week, and just at the point when you think you should start recovering, it gets worse, so you get really worried. And at that point, as I'm trying to like cough out my lungs, like literally every time I would cough, I would feel like I'm coughing out a piece of my lungs. It was horrendous. And I'm laying in bed and I'm just going, what am I doing to myself? So I had this like huge epiphany that I needed a change of career, and I was already trading, already liking it and getting quite good at it. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is a challenge. And to me, it wasn't even about the money. It was about the challenge. Let's go for it, right? So if you have that sort of a zest for life, that sort of a outlook that, you want something and you don't find it terrifying that not many people in the world have that skill, whilst everybody else around you is telling you how impossible this is to do. If you've done that before in your life, you will probably do quite well in trading because you're not afraid of uncertainty. You're not afraid to put your head through the wall and just go, I will give it my best, like my absolute maximum effort to make this work, whatever it takes. So if you have that sort of an outlook, yeah, you will probably get there in trading because you won't give up. Eventually, universe will yield to the time that you've invested in trying to better your skills. But at the same time, the betterment of skills has to be done systematically. It cannot be done, just show up and click buttons. Because that's just going to mean you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're never going to learn anything because, you're going to be in this fear mode, fight or flight mode, click button, lose money. Oh, well, and somehow hoping that magically it's all going to click. That's not how it works, okay? It's a skill set. If you're learning a new language, do you just show up with a whole bunch of people that speak the language and hope that one day, it's all going to click? Yeah, maybe, but how long is that going to take? Is it going to take a year or two? Maybe 3 or 4? Or is it going to take many years before you actually figure out what the hell people are saying, instead of going to a class where there's people who are teaching you vocabulary in a systematic way. There's people who are teaching you grammar, how to properly express yourself in that new language. This is the same thing, people. Okay, it's the same thing. Learning to play a musical instrument. You start off sucking, right? You suck really badly when you try and play a new instrument. You sound like cats crying. Or, saxophone, if you ever try to play sax, many people sound like a ferry boat coming down the river. And then over time it gets better, right? You start to get a little bit more melody into whatever you're doing. So you no longer sound like crying cats in a ferry. You start sounding like you actually have some structure to it. And, trading is exactly the same way, except trading decisions, unlike learning a new language and learning a new musical instrument, are painted with our money beliefs, which makes everything a lot harder, because money is an emotional thing for many people, right? So you would be like, wow, I lost some money, now I have to get it back. You never think when you're playing a musical instrument you're learning and you suck, when you play a phrase bad, you never think to yourself, oh my God, I need to play that better because that was terrible. But for some reason, our brains cannot tell the difference between an actual death threat and some lost money, okay? And that's why we get on a tilt. So it's nothing to do with greed. It's not even to do with discipline. It's to do with your ability to control your emotions, to stay aware of yourself, and to go into a deep self-exploration of your money beliefs. It's like, what exactly are your money beliefs? Like Hogue talks about it all the time, how when he was young, he met a guy that was frankly a bit of a, okay, I'm going to keep this PG, not a nice man. And as a result, that painted a picture to in his own head that all rich people are not good people, right? I'm really fighting not to use bad words, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, as a result, he didn't want to be rich, and it kept him from reaching his goals for a very long time because he had this idea that if he became rich, he's going to become a bad person. It's like silly little beliefs that he held from childhood. And then once he realized that, he was able to overcome that and change his relationship to money, right? Now, I didn't have that problem. I had a sense of inadequacy from a very, very stupid reason. When I was a kid, I have an older sister. She actually pops in here quite a bit older. So she's 10.5 years older than me. She doesn't look it. She also looks very youthful. But as a result, when I was 3, she was about 13, 14, right? And every time she was doing something, I wanted to emulate my big sister. So, she does something, I do something. And then my parents would just be laughing at me and they would be like, oh man, you suck. And it wasn't, I had a beautiful childhood. I come from a very stable background and stable family and all that. I don't have a rags to riches story. I wish I did. I don't, unfortunately. I come from a reasonably well affluent family. Yes, we did have some issues during the whole the wars, civil wars. That was my teenage years in Yugoslavia. But I think that kind of painted my my desire to do things today, not leaving it for tomorrow even more. So it was sort of a positive experience for me. It's a weird thing to say. But, I survived, got some life experiences and insight into how I want to be in life. And that's maybe why I'm not terribly bothered by trolls. Once you live through a bombing, sort of changes your outlook on life. So, nothing really matters. Your life matters. Nothing else matters. Whatever somebody thinks about you, who gives a monkeys, right? But yeah, as a result of having an older sister, my parents used to do these offshoot comments. They were, now I know that they weren't, meant as any sort of, derogatory commentary. It's just like, a little kid. Now, the problem with me is that I have this elephant-style memory. I remember things from when I was a kid, not just like 3-4 years old. I remember stuff from when I was a baby, when I couldn't walk. Like, it's a bit freaky, actually. Because one time I asked my mom, when I was about like 5 or 6 years old, I asked her, "Hey, Mom, so where's my, that cherry, little cherry outfit thing that I had? Where did that go?" And it was like one of those baby onesies that I was wearing when I was like several months old. And she was just like, "What? How can you possibly remember that?" So, weird moments like that. But because of my older sister, she was great at everything, right? She was one of those annoying kids. She just had so much talent. And even to this day, she's amazing at arts and crafts. She's an amazing painter. Singing came very naturally to her. And, I was always compared to her. And as a result, I developed a sense of inadequacy. I'm never good enough, so I need to get better. Now, unbeknownst to me, that feeling led to me having this incredible drive to do stuff way outside of the norm, right? And to prove to everyone that I can do better than my sister. Really, that's what was going on in my head, right? To prove to my mom and dad that I can do better than my sister. It's utterly stupid. It has no sense in reality. It's your toddler brain trying to make sense of the world and then creating silly self-limiting beliefs that many people carry into their 6th and 7th decade of life. You get people who are 70 years old and they still haven't sorted out their shit, because they never needed to. They had relatively normal lives and it never hindered them in any serious way and they were happy, But some of us, if you want to do trading, all of those little niggly things that you think that, are bothering you, they will come out to play whenever you start trading. So really, it's not about levels. It's not about strategy. Yes, those are important. You need to have strategies that are not flawed. But in the end, it's going to be your self-limiting beliefs that are going to shape your trading journey. And no one can tell you what that will be because you're you, I'm me, we have Ajaz, we have Lido, we have Stefan D, we have Anuj. We're all very different people with very different life experiences. So what works for me is probably not going to work for you necessarily. I can give you the pointers, but are we going to have exactly the same style? Probably not. Are you going to be comfortable taking, the same long-term trades and taking risk on and being okay with 40% accuracy like me? Probably not. Are you going to be okay with maybe taking a little bit from Hogue, taking a little bit from Dakota, taking a little bit from Nick? All of us together offer different styles. So your job is to sort of pick apart what you're comfortable with, try it out, and see what works for you, right? All right. Oh, yeah. Caesar says, "Oh my God, me too. I remember being 2 to 4 vividly." Yeah, many people do actually, and I found that the people who are effectively in trading generally have memory that's a little bit better than your average person. So even if you think that you are completely average, and let me give you an example of London cabbies, taxi drivers, right? A lot of them come from very normal, ordinary backgrounds. And a lot of them go into that job because they're continuously told how they're not good at school, they're not good at science, they're not good at math, they're not good at this, they're not good at that, they're not good at writing. And then they sort of go, well, actually being a cab driver is a pretty good job. Let me maybe do that. Now, over in London, you have to do something. You have to do a test called knowledge, which is effectively knowing all the main streets and how to connect from A to B without relying on maps. That takes some skill. Okay, so now a lot of the cabbies who go through it, they actually realize they're not useless. They just have a different skill set that is also very difficult, but they're not useless people. They're just like maybe more visual than others, and maybe they don't enjoy some of the dry lectures that I certainly had as a kid. Used to fall asleep in half of them. Mainly because I was working gigs and nights, but different problem. Yes, you versus you game. Absolutely right. Paul H has made it to the office. Good to hear that, Paul. Let me scroll back, see what idea that was. Jiwa says one of Elon's test questions: if you walk a mile south, then a mile east, then a mile north, you end up exactly where you started. Okay, so those sorts of questions and tests are the reason why I didn't do well in math in school. Now, bizarrely, when I was doing Series 3, there was a lot of that. Not quite like that, but there was a lot of sort of like logical questions, if you were to already have a forward cash sale, and then you end up hedging in the futures, but then eventually taking it off on this month, what would your effective price be? So it's like the same type of thing, right? Bizarrely, I did pretty well with those. So I don't know. I think your intelligence definitely changes and adapts the more you spend time working on them. I just couldn't be bothered with those sorts of questions at school. As soon as somebody would ask me, I would just like glaze over. If 27 is late, then what is 50? You know what? We all have different paths, right? I see many people who have gone into trading already at 19, 20. You see JD? So JD is about a year older than me. And he was already trading at like 20 years old. But, he came from the background of his dad being a broker and a trader. So obviously that was like almost a thing. Whereas I was a musician because my dad was a musician. So, and most people go into finance and trading much, much earlier. That's not to say that being 50 and going into trading is a bad thing. I actually think that you probably have more maturity than most young dudes going into it at 22, 25, 35, full of testosterone, let's go. And, that's not really a good thing. Because you're constantly fighting the urge to be better and to be the alpha male. Common issue with men in trading. And this is why I wanted to see how a female VIP group might do. Like we might do that on the next run. But for now, it's, I see we have a few girls in there. So that's nice to see. But it was a random draft. So we kind of did our best to try and get a few women in there. And, it's not a bad thing being 50 or over 50, even 60, I would say you probably have quite a lot of life experience, some nicely transferable skills that might mean that you actually won't be one of those people that will spend the next 10, 20 years trying to trade. In my experience, older individuals are calmer. They are more open to coaching. They are more open to suggestions, whereas it was always the dudes in their 20s and 30s that were always fighting me. I say, hey, let's try it this way, and they're like, no, I'm gonna do it my way. And I was like, well, your way hasn't worked, has it? This is why you're here. So can we maybe try? No, I'm gonna try. And then he goes and does 50 trades in a day, blows up all the accounts, and it's like, okay. And I was like, right. Can we try my way now? So, I would argue that having that maturity and knowing yourself, being through different stages of your life that are usually quite challenging, life is one big challenge, and you learn things about yourself. So you probably know yourself more than a dude who's 22 and just, coming into trading with dollars in their eyes. I also never hear, people who are already at a certain path in their 50s. They have maybe a pension waiting, or they've already done reasonably well in life, and they're just like, yeah, this is just going to be like something I do for retirement. There's no like, hey, I'm going to make $1 million in the next 9 months. There's none of that. And yet, strangely, a lot of them end up making like high 6 figures in that first year. So go figure. Yeah. Mindset is everything. Knowing yourself, mindset, and taking it slow. I say less haste, more speed. Take it as you will. Yeah, I know it's Nanka, I know it's a geometry question. Yeah, thanks. But even with non-geometry questions, it's like, if a train is going from A to B and is traveling at X miles per hour, it's like, who gives a monkeys? Just leave me alone. I want to play my saxophone. That's how I was when I was a kid, right? It's like, who gives a crap about trains moving from A to B? Like, when am I going to need that? Like, when am I possibly going to need to calculate the speed of the train moving? It's like, I'm a musician. I sit on that train and it drives me somewhere. It goes somewhere where I need to go. I don't think about how long it's going to take me to. I have an itinerary. Dee, what was your advice to the account blowers? That particular person, it was weird because he would go up, blow up accounts, but still drag out like 30 to 40K's worth of payouts. Then he would go into this cycle of blow up. So gets a funded account, does really well, gets a payout, blows up. So does something stupid, blows up. And he kept going through that cycle, but sort of haphazardly still getting payouts. It was the most bizarre thing I've seen, actually. And, he was, in the end, I think he settled down a little bit. But yeah, it's usually the young guys who are doing that. Account blowers are always sizing up because dollars in their eyes. And they're never in good financial situations. They're usually in debt up to their eyeballs. And they're trading out of desperation. That's what drives that. You're like, I need that money right now. And then they blow up and there's no money. That's the worst case scenario. That's why I said less haste, more speed, right? The less you rush, more speed you're gonna have. So somebody who might be in a bad financial situation and they keep buying accounts, sizing up, maybe getting one payout, then blowing up, they actually end up spending more money than the person who on combines, activation fees, all that, than the person who takes it slow, works hard on one account or maybe several accounts on the same idea, and then slowly gets to pay out, make sure that everything is sustainable, and then eventually build skills that will they will enable you to maintain the accounts, get payouts, and not blow out every 3 seconds. Now, that's not to say that you won't blow out every 6 months or so, and that's fine. We saw Rafa, who granted did pay himself out, but he paid himself out so much that when he hit a drawdown period, there was not enough account balance left in there, so he lost the account. It can happen to anyone, right? And that's okay. You shouldn't be like, unless you lost your live account doing stupid things, like, you got into an XFA, you somehow limped your way to 100K balance, and then in the next 10 days upon a transfer to live, you go on you enter 15 contracts, you're doing stupid things like that, you're entering those 15 contracts at the start on a Sunday, as soon as the market opens. Those are the kind of things that people don't want to see, right? Those are the kind of people that would get pulled up for losing their live accounts because they've done it. It's not that they lost the live account. That's not the point. Like, there's people blowing out of live accounts left, right, and center every day. But they're not the ones that end up on shoulder tap. If you gave it your all to maintain the account and you're like, you're really trying, you're sizing down, you're trying to change things around, They're, Mick and Ben are not going to be like, oh yeah, R.I.P. gravestone. They're not going to do that because they recognize that you're trying to make changes, that you recognize that you're still growing, or something's not working out, the market state has changed, or the strategy has changed, or whatever. They're not going to be roasting you for that. But what they will roast you for is Muppet behaviors, It's like, who the hell opens up a 15-lot NQ at Globex Open? Like, what are you doing? Go on. So yeah. But yeah, my advice to the account blowers is that first figure out whether you have some other compulsive behaviors. Sort out your financial situation away from trading, because this is not a solution. In fact, you're probably better off starting off in OnlyFans or something. Might be quicker. But the bottom line is, when you rush and you want to get to a payout quickly, that creates rubbish, right? Rushing through combines, rushing through XFAs, it never creates consistency, it never creates lasting skills. Like, if you actually watch Fatima on TopstepTV, I have high respect for her, because she has been funded multiple times, and you never see people go, oh yeah, RIP. No, because she really tries. Like, she recognizes that she's got certain gambling tendencies, and she's battling them, constantly, but she's working actively on them. That's what you should be doing. And she comes on TopstepTV with so much courage and just goes, yeah, guys, I still struggle. I still did something stupid. I know I shouldn't be doing this. And, that kind of honesty towards yourself, that takes guts. That takes, like, balls, man. So, some people I've seen some people in the comments, not during our London session, but during the main broadcast, when I say about women traders, and they're like, oh, well, no, women are very emotional. Really? Because I think Fatima has probably bigger balls than most men on the broadcast. Yeah. I mean, just to be able to be so open. And what does that tell you? It tells you that she's completely in tune with what she's doing wrong, with her emotions. She knows what she's doing wrong. She's working actively on making it better. And she will keep failing, but also keep getting up. That's why I guess Fatima is still going to be here for many years to come. Okay? So mark my words. She's going to be a good trader. She sees the market very well. She just has to sort out the mindset. And maybe that will come with a bit of age, right? She's still very young. That will come with age and maturity and experience at the end of the day. So yeah, mark my words, you will see more of Fatima in the coming years. Exactly. Total Sushem is right. Total shout out to Fatima. Tommy V said, hot topic today. Okay, let's address this. Dee, did you hear what Mike Patak said yesterday about banning traders that lose live accounts? Can you summarize? Lots of people talking about it. Worried everybody loses their accounts. He was not talking about people who give it a good go at the live account and it doesn't work out, Dakota lost his live account. Is he banned? He's not banned, right? He's still there, still number 3, number 2, number 1, depends on the week. Did we all buy a bunch of combines? Did we all go through a number of XFAs? Do we all still sometimes do 1 or 2 resets per day? Yes. But do you do that excessively is the question, okay? So here's what you need to understand about the ban. It only applies to traders who are, for example, buying 50 combines all at once, then blowing up like a whole bunch of them, resetting excessively. So if you have 50 combines, that would be 50 resets in a day. And then having some of them doing maximum contracts, or maybe all of them doing maximum contracts, quite possibly doing different directions. So let's say you have 5 of them where you do long on NQ, and then you have 5 of them where you're doing short on NQ. And then whichever one blows up, that's fine, but the other one gets you funded in a couple of days, right? Another thing to not do, is to, for example, get 5 accounts and then you get 5 XFAs from it, and then you get maximum contracts in 1 XFA, you blow out of that one. Do the next one. Maximum contracts in the next XFA, blow out of that one. Maximum contract in the third XFA, you go 10, 15, 20, 50K, 100K profit doing the same thing on maximum contracts. That's the kind of behavior that they don't want to see, because that's not trading. That is gambling. There's no strategy there. What you're just trying to do is going maximum contracts, no regard for risk, you boom or bust, and then you get a payout. That's gaming the system. That is basically taking the money away from the traders who are really trying to learn. So don't be worried if you, oh my God, I bought 8 combines and I passed them all, but then I blew up in 2 days. That is fine, okay? You are safe. You will not be somebody who is seen as trying to game the system. But if you've done these are the behaviors that I've just explained. Maximum contracts in 1, go 1 direction. Maximum contract in 2, go 2nd direction. Maximum contract. So blow out, blow out, blow out. Oh, great. So now I can get a 50K payout in one XFA. Brilliant. Those are the kind of behaviors that are definitely not right, okay? It's like they're not fair to all the rest of us who are trying to, hold on to one account and, do the best that we can. And, so try and size down, you get into a drawdown, oh my God. Or you do 2 resets in a day because you messed it up and, it's fine, right? It's fine. But don't be scared, right? Unless you specifically and explicitly aim to exploit the system, you are safe. Don't worry, okay? Don't worry. Happy Money Capital says, hey, Deeyana, I'm trading MGC. What time does the 15-minute London opening range start? So it starts at 8 a.m. GMT. So whatever that is, go to like Savvy Time or something to convert it into your time zone. And then that's the first 15 minutes. So from 8 a.m. GMT to 8:15. That will be your opening range. Yeah, Lido says, I know someone who spent over $15,000 on combines. And if that's in like a month or 2, that will be considered excessive buying of combines. Like, what are you doing? Like what could you possibly be doing with $15,000 worth of combines? Raj says, question, what if you have a trade from Asia all the way through to New York and then use another account to scalp in between? That's fine. Like, there's no problem with that, as long as you're not in maximum contracts and you didn't blow out of 1 XFA trying to do the same thing. So, it's the how would I put it? Intentional attempts at gaming the system, quite clearly using 1 account with maximum contracts, blowing out of it, then doing the same thing until you score big, is what they're referring to, okay? If you have 1 account for 1 strategy, Asia trading, you have another XFA for scalping, that's brilliant. That's how you should be using multiple accounts, right? You're not doing maximum contracts in both. You have 1 strategy for 1, you have another strategy for another one. Like, why are you worried? Like, there's no worry there, right? Yeah, trade to make a living, not to become rich. And bizarrely, you become rich by doing that. Funny that, yeah? Anthony says, Topstep is always showing off how people are making massive profits and they have leaderboards too. It's no surprise people are YOLOing. I will agree with that to a degree. However, I will also give full props to Mick, who does say this person made 100K, but then went on a 43 daily loss limit bonanza. 43-day losing streak. So he gives props for 1 day, and then another day is like, what are you doing, mate? So, it's good TV. I get it, showcasing big numbers is what makes people watch. Nobody wants to watch me make, $200 a day, right? But you have somebody making like, wow, they made 20 grand. However they did it, it's good TV, and it's kind of, you could argue that it's even funnier when they make all of that money and then They lose much more doing stupid things in a live account because they're just not ready for it yet. And that's what you see over and over. Makes 50 grand, loses 80 grand. Makes 100 grand, loses 172 grand. So it's like, you know, we need to be realistic and know that TopstepTV is entertainment. After all, it's very educational, but it is also entertainment. So keep that in mind when you're looking at leaderboards. Initially, I was like worried about leaderboards and whatever. I couldn't care less, man. Like, I have my DAX trading, I have my multiple accounts, I have, private accounts, I have my multiple strategies. Topstep is nice to have, it's good to have, but, it's more of a educational thing. And at this point, it's just nice to have something to show a trade off, right? It's like, okay, there we go. This is a strategy. This is why I've got it in ticks. I don't have it in dollars as well. I hate dollar amounts. I have different account sizes, right? So for me, trading in ticks, every trade looks the same. If you want to go for cash and, oh my God, let's make huge profits. It's ego. And if you're just starting an account, that's not a good trading practice. You're effectively chasing somebody who's maybe, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm coming off to Dakota. And Dakota's like, yeah, sure, come. The water is warm, He's not like, yeah, man, I'm going to be like, whatever. He is here to educate as well. Now, the boy has a big risk appetite. I will give him that. Like, I can never trade, the sizes on NQ that he trades because I look at it from I've been involved in creating like mechanical trading systems for a long time, and just seeing what those position sizes do over long periods of time, I'm just like, God, like, 40% drawdown, ouch. And things like that, it's just like very difficult for me to be I'm very risk averse, let's put it that way. Very risk averse. I was not so risk averse when I was younger. I will be very honest with you guys. I would be going, like when I had the first Topstep funded account, I was easily trading 3 crude oil minis in the new account. That was like, yeah, sure, we start with 3, right? Now I start maybe with 3 in a combine, but I go down to 1 very quickly in a new funded account. How do I change it to ticks? You go into settings, you go into charts and data, then you go into chart value display type, drop down, select ticks, percent, or points. You can also change it to those. I prefer ticks. Some people prefer points. I don't. I have no idea what's going on. But I like ticks because ticks give me a good idea of what is actually going on. And then you just go back and then you will have ticks displayed. Okay. Visit says I have 1 long M&Q on 21797. I don't know if I should hold through New York. Holding through the New York Open to me would be equal to holding through a CPI and PPI release. And also you say holding through New York. Mate, we have PPI at 1:30 p.m., okay? You're going to hold your position into that? That would be gambling. Just consider that. So holding it into New York Open means you're going to hold it through PPI. Terrible idea. CPI from yesterday was a bit of a bigger release, but PPI is sort of like a longer term outlook, right? It's going to get bumpy. So don't hold it. Cut it. If you have some profits, get profits and be happy, right? Just go, awesome, good day. And then trade maybe after the release is over and done with. And maybe give first 30 minutes for the market to settle down. Then you can start looking for positions, okay? Easier to use the preferences button on the chart. I don't think... can you actually change that? I don't think that there is that option here. Is there not? I didn't think that they put that option on the chart because this is chart related. I don't see any tick things. I mean, I could be wrong. Obviously, they keep updating the platform, so yeah, I don't know everything. In fact, I will be the first one to say that, you know, I really don't know anything. I'm, you know, the way I've always done it is just charts and data. That's the only place. To the right of the indicators, okay. Chart preferences. I see. Okay, yeah, that's new. So, okay, so I was the very first live account on Topstep. I've watched it kind of develop, but I didn't realize that they added this because this wasn't a feature before. I don't keep track of all the new features. I keep track of the risk features, which usually, typically on the live, we don't really get until much later on. Like, we've just gotten the personal daily loss limits on the lives. Can you believe that? We still don't have personal trade limits. Okay. We have no analytics on live. So all of this fancy stuff that you see here, we have none of that. And you can export it, but no trading platform is actually compatible with the live accounts because there's comparatively fewer live accounts to the sim. So all of the fancy new tools that you guys are getting, we have to wait because it's a different server, right? So they have to kind of do everything. How do you change background? I think that might be in this one. You go body, so body of the candles, borders, wick, price lines, canvas. You can change background solid and change it to whatever you want. Let's change it to something super screamy, like lime. Lime. Or totally black, so you don't see candles. Or blue. There you go, blue. So yeah, very easy to change background. Change it to whatever you wish. Oh, this is a bit lighter. Is this better? No, I think I like the darker one. Slightly darker one. So let's change it one shade darker. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that's how you change it. All right, guys, that's going to be it. Shanky has one good question, actually. Does Topstep not allow trades during CPI? They have no more news rules. They used to back in the day. So when, you know, I first got funded with them 10 years ago. But yeah, they used to have a rule not to trade 4 minutes before the release and 4 minutes after. But since all of the other firms don't have the news anymore, they decided to remove that as well. So it is at your discretion whether you're going to trade news or not. But please don't. Just please don't. Whatever setup you think you have, you know, if you're on the wrong side of that, it's going to smack you in the face rip like you've not seen ever. And then you're just going to be like, oh, I got it wrong. And on the days when you get it right, those are rare. Because, yeah, you might be right, but at what cost? It's one of those times when the risk is too high compared to the reward that you will get. Can you link TradeZella to live? No, I tried. I tried Edgewonk. I tried TradeZella. Every time you try and get the CSV that they give you from live, because it's not trades, it's orders. We don't have trades export. Or we have trades export, but no, one of the ones that you have in an XFA you can't export in the live. So yeah, for now, I've asked Edgewonk if they can work on it, and last I heard they were like, oh, not enough interest or something. So, you know, it is what it is. At some point, you know, live server will be able to get that trades export, and then we'll be able to export it. So yeah. All right, hit the like, guys. Thank you for hanging with me. If you're thinking about coming on to trade with us, take a look at the casting call form that our lovely Nick Dolby is going to review. You might need to make a video for us. And then we might see you, like Paul H., you know, we know each other now, you know, we're all buddies now. We've been on for several times. I've had Paul H. on here. Well, it all started for him by filling out the casting call form, right? And one great thing is that you get to get almost like a one-to-one with all of us. And, you come to Back to the Futures or Trade with Topstep segment, and you get to see how we do things, get to ask us questions, and just generally have some banter, right? Share your story, have some banter, do some trading, or just observe the markets and, get your face out there. Why not? I will be here a bit later today during the main broadcast, so you will see some more of me today. You will also see me tomorrow for the reversal challenge. It is always a fun way to blow out of an account. I may have to do some practice or just to get a little bit of a buffer going in that practice account, because everybody else seems to do those, they use their practice account quite a lot, whereas, I'm not really doing that. Like, I'm using another platform for that. So maybe I should start considering, building up a buffer in the practice account and then going into the actual reversal challenge with some 15, 20K of buffer. Maybe I'll manage to survive the 8 lots that they're making us do. All right. Until later, have a good day. Watch out the PPI release today. I would highly suggest that you don't trade directly into it. Let things settle down. Lock yourself out if you can't keep your fingers away from the trigger. So keep it in your pants until PPI is over, and then you can have a look at the setup. That's all I've got for you. I'm going to keep babysitting this platinum trade. It's gone nowhere. Welcome to London. Let's hope we get DAX sometime this year. Until much later, I will see you again. In the meantime, take care.